the grief that Agnes was carrying and everyone in that Globe Theatre was carrying, it is so unbelievably immense and chaotic. It's like entropy. It doesn't make any sense and it has no edges. It needs a container for it to be transformed. And that container is the shape of the theater, is the 200 crew that are holding in every position, and it is the words of William Shakespeare, right? And it's our storyboards. We do some work as filmmakers. So we keep thinking about contain. We use a DreamWork specialist. She would do active imagination, a form of meditation with all 300 extras and 200 crew. And so that all of us is vibrating at the same emotions as Agnes. So when the container is that strong, then we can conjure this collective grief to its most expressive. So it becomes almost like a collective communal ritual.
You are a special, amazing filmmaker. So honored to have this opportunity to, take this ride through all of the beautiful stories that you've given us. I won't make you cry. Maybe.
I mean, look who this is. I mean, holy shit! I can't believe Regina King. And we were Zoom buddies.
Zoom buddies.
The COVID years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because there were a few moments on those Zoom buddies. I was just happy to see another woman that, was feeling the same things that I was feeling in this crazy time, We were both, I was about to connect it to something, but I will say this, we were both in the place of very concerned about film and theater and all of that, and we still have some concern, but the success of Hamnet recently tells us that theater is here. Going to the movies is something that is it's not going away. I was saying that on the Zoom, and Chloe was like, God willing. Yeah, but you've proved that to be true. Let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning, from our introduction to you, Songs My Brother Taught Me. Beautiful film. I guess one of the biggest things that I was asking myself when I first was introduced to you as a filmmaker, and then did my research and found out that most of the performers that we see in your films, especially Songs My Brother Taught Me and the writer, are not actors. They're not trained actors. And for that to be your first film, that's a bold, ballsy move to make. But there's a part of me, just as a storyteller, could see why you would make that choice, but I'm just curious to just hear, was there were you just sure about that, or did you have some trepidations that came along with that?
Looking back at it, there were quite a few things that led to that decision. I was in film school around the time when I was about to make my thesis film, which was Songs My Brothers Taught Me. There was an emerging trend of upcoming filmmakers going to places and working with people who are from that place. And then, so there was Beast South and Wild, Ben Zylan's film, and Josh Safdie, which I reminded, this year he has Marty Supreme, but he made a couple of films back then when I was in film schools. They were working with just local people he found on the streets in New York. And I think part of that, it was out of necessity. So didn't have any money. And which led to, songs my brothers taught me, which took place on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And just getting anybody out there. I mean, we made the film with $100,000. And so to find professional actors, to have the amount of time that we need to have them, and have them to just fly out there and live there and immerse in the community and learn the way they speak and the way we can't afford 3 days of that. So and then also, like, there is if I were a filmmaker, I probably would have been a private detective or an archaeologist. I like understanding why a place is the way they are and why people live the way they do. And so all those things combined together, it became like, I think 3 films later, working with non-professional actors who are part of the land and the places that we're filming at.
Right. Well, I mean, was there something particular about Pine Ridge that, when you were going on this exploration to immerse yourself into a group, a community, why Pine Ridge? Because you ended up, 2 films kind of ended up coming out of the same area.
And actually, we went back to Pine Ridge for Nomadland. I knew we had got to go back to South Dakota, got to get Fern to drive that van to South Dakota and to the reservation. Things happen in life. Sometimes it feels like by chance, but then your subconscious is driving you. Now that I've learned some language around that, it's never completely by chance. But I remember about the time making my thesis film, feeling that I'm not going to be able to make a better film in New York than what people are already doing. New York has such... there are filmmakers that are just so deeply rooted in that place, and I didn't think it was my place to be. And I was yearning for a connection with nature. That having lived in New York for almost a decade at the time, and it's the same yearning I had as a little girl living in Beijing to Inner Mongolia and to the plains. And there's something about the plains that are very different than farmland, because the plains, they haven't been agriculturally developed, so the soil has not been tilted. Right, so you can still walk around on the plains of Inner Mongolia or South Dakota in the Badlands and find a piece of animal bone that literally had not moved for a long, long time. And if you believe in energy, it does something to you. There's something wild and ancient about it. And being in New York for that long, where everything is tilted and changed and built on, and there's almost nothing old left. And I knew... I was yearning for that. And then I saw a photo in National Geographic by a photographer named Aaron Huey, and the image showed a Lakota teenager on a horse, and he had a bandana on, and he was at a gas station getting cigarettes, but he was on a horse. And there's something about that image. There's so many contradictions in it. I thought, there's already within one frame so much polarity, so much tension, so much paradoxes. What else is there?
Yeah, well, it shows your frames, the way you frame the land. Everything that you said, that you say that in those frames. That's a. And I call them visual symphonies, but. When you get the story behind that symphony, then the music sings even louder. I'm curious, when you were in Pine Ridge doing songs, my brother taught me, was that experience, because you mentioned the Lakota teenager on the horse, did that spark the idea for the story of the writer, or?
The writer, yeah. So when I was making songs, I got to know this group of Lakota cowboys, I didn't realize these things mixed. You know, I didn't know much about America outside New York and LA at the time. And then to see that, the complicated relationship between these two archetypes coming together and creating a new culture. And I became so fascinated with them. And I try to put them in songs my brothers taught me, which, you know, looking back at it, be careful when you get too excited about things that's outside your main storyline. I remember going with songs, because I shot songs without a script. I would never do that again. I shot it with a treatment, because when you shoot with the treatment, I realized as an editor, going to the edit, you don't, yes, you have A, B, C, D, but you don't have the connecting dots between. Yeah, oh my God, I can't get my character from this scene to the next scene.
Well, how did you manage to get him there?
We went back to shoot more a year later with a Canon 5D, which, you know, drove my DP crazy, because there were some, you know, the quality is just not the same, but we couldn't afford. It was next time, shoot your establishing shots, have your character walk from A to B.
Yeah.
I know it's boring, but just shoot the damn thing. And still making the same mistake on Hamnet. Like, it couldn't help it.
But that's the beauty of being a director. I mean, I feel like, from my own personal experience, that's because I still feel like I'm young in this space of directing. I feel like I'm just learning all of the time, you know, learning from my mistakes often, but it kind of feels like I'm still expressing, you know, I'm even, it connects you to those feelings of when you're younger, where you kind of, you don't care if you're making a mistake, I'm going. Yeah. And then you're like, it's nice. Shit, yeah.
It's really, really nice. And also because the cinematic language is very young. You know, it's a baby language. So we're all going to stumble no matter how successful they are, because it's just changing, evolving so much. Yeah. And back to the cowboys, I because I had a treatment, I got, whenever there's something exciting happen, I said, oh, let's go shoot that. And so we ended, I love my first film, but it meanders a little bit. And actually, that word is being used to describe all my films.
Well,
it meanders, and it's okay.
It is okay. It is okay. And even, but still.
Drink some coffee.
But I do feel like, you know, yeah, meander, it might be the word that's being used, but just the, I can't remember the lead main character in Songs My Brother Taught Me, the brother. Johnny is kind of in this meandering place, you know what I mean? And so I was with it. I was following it. Yeah. I one thing that I also did catch is, and maybe I'm wrong, but some of the non-actors, they were in the writer.
Oh, like they're also in Nomadland, playing the guitar.
Right, yeah. Yes.
You know, it's
like with full lines and roles and everything. I was like, oh, so she found these non-performers, non-actors, and was like, you are now an actor.
Yeah, it's our little cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So you're gonna reappear.
The Zhao universe.
Whenever you're in South Dakota, these characters will appear. No, it's. I think some of them are acting now, but mostly as stuntman. And
no, some of them are actually acting, and you know, because I actually saw the writer before I saw Songs My Brother Taught Me, so I went back, and so I was like, well, wait a minute, that's the guy that bought the horse. You know, yeah. But I love that, because you fully, and that's what you want as an audience member. You want to feel like everything that's going on in life, you're kind of leaving that behind, and that's why we go to have film experiences. We want to be in that world, and you do such a great job of bringing us to that world. And then you take a hard, well, I wanted to go to Nomadland, but we'll come back to Nomadland. So the writer, and then you did Nomadland, and then you take a hard left. Yeah.
A little hard.
That's so badass. With
You do that too.
not as badass, but I was just so curious because you use the same camera rig on Nomadland, on the Eternals, and on the Eternals you have all of this money. What was the reasoning for same camera rig? You know. There's a lot. That's loaded.
Yeah, is it loaded? Yeah. Do I tell the joke first? Do I be
Joke.
The joke. It's kind of it lingered into Hamlet a little bit, but on Internals, I remember our lovely cinematographer Ben was like, he said to me, "I know you don't need a crane. I know you don't want to use these, but can we just like pretend we're gonna do a shot for the boys? They're really bored." They really want to show you this awesome rig. Let's just do one shot for them. I was like, okay, but I'm not going to use it. He said, it's okay. But I have to say.
This is the toys.
I know, but I have to say, I look back at it and I thought, maybe I was a little too dogmatic. Dogma can happen on each end. It could be, the formula of big blockbuster films. But also, I was very dogmatic of how, okay, I made Nomadland and write it this way, and I'm going to make Eternal exactly that way. And that created a lot of difficulties because, for example, I wanted the Malik's non-cutting roaming cameras, right? And yeah, you can do that with non-actors in the Badlands as much as you want. But when you are moving that camera through space, and looking at the Celestials creating universe, what you're doing to your visual effects supervisor is brutal because you're asking them to create reality, and also how much would that cost, right? And there's no place to hide. And I was like, I'm not using any Atmos. I don't want anything in the foreground. And they're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So, but I was holding on to something I know, so I could feel safe. And that, looking back, I thought, of course, a couple of awesome crane shots would be amazing to create scale, to help in the edit. Put something in the foreground, put some Atmos. It's gonna make the monsters integrate so much better. So I didn't want to come here just to talk about my mistakes, but I feel like those are most helpful, So when I come into Hamnet, I try to let go and create a very safe environment so I don't have to hold on to any dogmatic belief that I have to keep myself safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because I'm with all of your films, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, you cover different terrain Nomadland writer and songs, similar terrain, but, you're in this mythological world, you're in Elizabethan England, the American West, but you still are able to keep those themes of humanity in all of those spaces. And I'm just curious, is there, when it comes to Eternals, and I mean, you did some writing on Eternals, but it wasn't like your baby, I would say, like songs and the writer and Nomadland. Did you bring that humanity to the story of Eternals, or did that already exist, like those themes?
Well, I became one of the screenwriters later, but the initial idea was created by the Furpoles and their cousins, not brothers. And but it came from Jack Kirby's creation. But I remember going to Marvel, and Nate Moore, my producer, put me in a room with a sheet of paper. It's like, and then they lock the door, and say, read it, see if you like it, and that's the treatment. And I remember, as I was telling you earlier, I couldn't quite believe what I was reading, because this is going to be an opportunity where I get to do a Greek play. At least that's how I saw it. It's about a pantheon of gods. Each of them, because of their powers, therefore have a different relationship with humanity. And the whole film is going to be about them debating and discussing the nature of humanity, or whether humanity should be allowed to break out of the natural order and be saved. Judgment. I thought, oh my God, making the first 3 films, for the first 10 years, I was exposed to so much more spirituality and way of life that I never knew before. And I thought, with this container, I get to talk about everything I learned and everything I'm still questioning. Are we the answer to the universe? Are we special? Should we be allowed to, is humanism moral? Should we continue to exist at the price to pay of every other living things in the universe, right? So those are the bigger questions I wanted to ask. And of course, it was volcanic. For those of you who've seen it, you know what I mean by volcanic. And it exploded out of me, and I didn't think I had the kind of experience to contain it. And then 4 years later, it took me that long to cool down that lava and try to excavate what I tried to say. And Hamnet is part of that. Yeah.
I can't wait to get into Hamnet, but we're not going to get into Hamnet yet.
That's okay.
Because we have to spend a little time with Nomadland.
Okay.
We truly do. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. We have to all of the accolades that you received for Nomadland, rightfully so. But first I want to get into you have Frances McDormand. We're not getting into Hamnet, but you have Jessie Buckley. 2 totally different spaces, but was the process, the difference between that communication with Frances in Nomadland and Jessie obviously Jessie's, Agnes is a mother, quite different, and we're going to get into that. But just what was the difference in the 2 process? Because in Nomadland, you guys were living with the people and living in RVs and things like that. So
that's a really good question, because I haven't quite put Fran and Jessie in the same, box and look at them together.
I think they're both such powerhouse actresses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Very interesting, because now I think about it, I think about the 2 of them. They both have neither of them can handle any dissonance. They cannot not be completely present, authentic in the moment. It drives them nuts to pretend, right? So Fran in Nomadland, there was a moment when we were in Nebraska, in Scottsbluff, and in a car mechanic place, and the scene I wrote of her, the mechanics trying to sort of cheat her, trying to get her to sell the van, kind of typical, sketchy mechanic character. And she gets very angry in the script. She like shouts at him. It's like, this is my home, you know, like you blah, blah, blah. So that was the scene. And then we found like this guy, and he's been a mechanic his whole life, including his father's business. And he's the loveliest person you can imagine that exists on earth. And he said to us, you know, out here, cars are like horses to the cowboys. If your car breaks down, your life breaks down. You know, you're not going to be able to go to work. You're not going to be able to go get toilet paper. You know, you can't survive. So people come with, like, try to get me to fix their lifeline. And most of them don't even have money for it. So, like, his whole life, he's like this community, you know, this guy. So then I go, well, this is your role, though. So, he's like, he argued with me for like half an hour. Yeah, but I wouldn't, that's not nice. I was like, yeah, but that's your character. You're pretending. Get it? And then he's like, okay. So then Fran's like, we good? And I'm like, yeah. So we do the scene. Poor guy just could not do it. He keeps saying, but you know what actually I think I would do for you is this. And then Fran, and I was thinking, you know, even she said, it's like, I'm going to give it to him. I know what to do. You know, she had it prepared. And then, but the guy was not giving her that performance.
Because he didn't believe in it.
Yeah, no. And anyone else, I mean, anyone less than what Fran's capacity and the incapacity to be inauthentic is, would just deliver it. She has the tools to do it. But a take and after take, she just kind of looked at me, and then she's like, I got this, I can do this, hold on. And then it was like, yeah, you're supposed to. And then finally, the best she could do was the clip we showed when we first showed Nomadland, is she was like, this is my home. You know, it was said in a very restrained way. And then I remember, I said, God, this is really good, you know? And she was like, okay. And then she went away, and the next day, I realized it did bother Fran, because she was like, I'm not giving you what you want. And then I had to remind her, oh, sorry, I didn't pay attention to you, because I didn't think you worry about any of this stuff. But you give us exactly what I wanted, because you are present with this other person. You know, and Jessie is the same. Mm-hmm. You know, she's exactly the same like Fran. So yes, they're professional actors, but I was also able to work with them as non-professional actors as well, in a way. Werner Herzog said, can you be present in the moment or not, professional or non-professional? Can you let go of your idea of what you want the scene to be, or even what the director wants the scene to be, but truly react with the person in front of you? I mean, who I'm talking to? You know what I'm talking about. So I got very lucky, I feel like, with the both of them. They're waiting to be like that.
You did, man, because both their performances are just, oh my gosh, which brings us to Hamnet, to really get into Hamnet. That film sent me. Yeah. I want us to see a clip of Hamnet before we get into it. I mean, I want to also say, girl, congratulations on just all of the BAFTA. I mean, just everything, just name it all. No, we have not shown a clip of Hamnet.
Okay.
We have shown little bits of Hamnet. We are going to, ladies and gentlemen, Hamnet.
I die! The food poison quite overgrows my spirit. rest is silence.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. So, thank you. I didn't know what I was getting when I came to see that film. I've kind of adopted this thing as of the past few years that because critics just ruin films, I mean, the trailers ruin the film. So I've been, you know, going to see films based on maybe just a small something that I've read, people that I know who are part of the filmmaking team are involved. And so I go in blind, not knowing, you know. I thought maybe something to do with Hamlet. I mean, Hamnet is close. And, you know, it was you, so I went to see, and I should have probably known what I was going to see before, but it's harrowing, but it's so beautiful. I mean, the love stories that are happening in this story, the clip that we just saw, the Globe Theater that you guys reproduced and made it a space that turns loss into legacy. It was just simply gorgeous. So in that clip that we just watched, anyone who has seen the film knows that there's devastating loss that that Agnes is and William are carrying, and through that grief, through that turning the grief to public art, enduring art, kind of brings them back together. It's just so beautiful how you did that. And when I'm watching that scene, and you have kind of three different plays kind of going on at the same time. You have the actual play that William Shakespeare wrote. You have all of these like 300-400 extras, and then this subject matter that's so devastating happening all at the same time. How did you conduct that? How did you, what is your conversations with the 300 actors, and Agnes needs to reach through that crowd and connect with Hamnet? Like what the hell, man?
Well, first of all, thank you.
Thank you.
In many ways. When that play was staged back then, it was around the time of 2 plagues, not just one. And what we believe also, it was a few years after his son had died, right, that this Hamlet was written. So it's not from some genius ideas from the sky, but this was a man who's lived at a time where the collective grief was so immense, and he has also been living with a broken heart himself. And so recently someone said to me that grief is the placenta that you must allow or the chrysalis, you must allow yourself to rest in, to sit in, to be reborn. And if we don't, like Agnes, she was frozen, right, in her grief. And we can assume that 300 audience member at that time, many of them were frozen in their grief, having lost so many loved ones during the plague. And when you sit in there being grinded down, so for a chance to be reborn is excruciating. And what do? You reach for poetry, you reach for music and storytelling, metaphor, something, the mystery, something that could explain something that cannot be explained. And to get back to your question, the grief that Agnes was carrying and everyone in that Globe Theater was carrying, it is so unbelievably immense and chaotic. It's like entropy. It doesn't make any sense and it has no edges. It needs a container for it to be transformed. And that container is the shape of the theater, is the 200 crew that are holding in every position, and it is the words of William Shakespeare, right? And it's our storyboards. We do some work as filmmakers. Storyboards, and it is our frames. So we keep thinking about contain. And once the container is set, then we use a DreamWorks specialist. Her name is Kim Gillingham, and she comes from a Jungian tradition, and she worked with me and Jessie and Paul a lot throughout the film. But what she also did is that she would do active imagination, a form of meditation with all 300 extras and 200 crew, so for about 10 to 15 minutes before the take. And then Max Richter's music was on repeat playing. And so that all of us is vibrating at the same emotions as Agnes. So when the container is that strong, then we can conjure this collective grief to its most expressive. And when that kind of energy meets sharp edges, that's when depth, love, structure, that's when it go deep. And once it go deep, I can tell Jessie, Paul, they're feeling the energy from the audience. So it becomes almost like a collective communal ritual.
Like church.
I felt like I was in church. I was in temple, whatever was happening those days. And the decisions we were making, if we talk to any of the crew members and the actors, it almost as if something bigger is moving us. The decisions come so naturally. Nobody's second thinking. It was just, and I love that feeling of oneness when you work with a company of people. And that does take everyone being willing, feeling safe enough to open their hearts and to be vulnerable and to join this collective chant. So spiritually, that's how we did it. And but the container part is all these, but the last thing I would say is that container has to be created for this purpose, which means that it can't be like, oh, this is how I think the scene is going to go, so I'm going to set a container to achieve this. The container is created so the actors can conjure, right? So, but therefore it's flexible also. Like, for example, we had these cranes in the first couple of days, and energetically having these gigantic machines in that circle was causing some strange feeling. And our DP was the one that goes, I want them out. So we shot the entire sequence of the ending on ladders and then map box. That's it. So that the shape doesn't get disturbed. Yeah.
And that feeling of containing.
Exactly.
It's so funny, because the toys that we use is a part of the language, and I can totally understand where a crane had no place there. But none of us watching the film felt like we were missing that, in any way. It's just simply beautiful. Girl. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess I can sit here and talk to you about so much more because I kind of, you said some things in there about the plague, and it's not lost on me that Hamnet would come after we get hit with the plague.
Yeah.
That's not lost on me. I think that everything is. I know people talk about serendipity and, whether you want to call it by chance or not, everything was moving in concert to make Hamnet happen now, opposed to,
Absolutely.
Eternals needed to happen for Hamnet to happen, definitely. So they're telling me, y'all have some questions. And they put them in my pocket. And even though I have more questions, I'm gonna go to y'all's questions. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. First question, was there a moment on set when you questioned the film or yourself? I'm gonna assume, is that any film or Hamnet?
All the time.
Yeah.
Any film, ever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
par for the course.
I always feel like, I think we have a film. That's usually like, there's some stuff people want to see. That's my default.
I'm so glad someone else has that too. My team is always like, you can never just say amazing, right? You just never. And I'm like, no, you're always. So answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
Both. Can you tell us about your routine the night before and beginning of day when you're in production?
Oh, you mean like a daily routine?
Yeah.
I would go home and I would I make sure I eat a really nice Asian meal when I'm in England, something Asian, and then I watch a little bit dailies if I. There are times where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to see it because I don't think it's gonna work, and then I will be in denial and not watching it, and then forcing myself to look at things. But mostly I go to sleep. I try to I look at some dog videos. Dogs, just animal funny videos, just sort of to get some perspective, and and then I go to sleep. I need a lot of sleep, and sometimes, and I also, because I believe I do a lot of dream work, so even when I'm sleeping, I'm working. So that's my routine. Lots of sleep.
My beau calls that the dog videos, that's washing your brain out.
Thank you. It's really cooking videos, gardening, whatever flows your boat. For me, it's like dogs.
Dogs are good.
Yeah.
Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
I'd love to hear more about how you break down your script with your director of photography and other heads of department. Also, when you're shooting, what's your method to maintain a visual language across a film? Best, Ari.
That is the most professional question I've been asked ever. Break down the script. Okay, because we couldn't really afford crew members for the first two films. Like we pretty much had to be our own AD. So, and my DP and I, Josh and I, we basically. For us, weather is everything. Right, like you look at the things that you can't change, and in the case of Hamnet, it's also weather. The forest is going to lose its leaves, and there's babies, and just these things that necessities first. That's the first round, and then consideration for my actors is big. I think is that what you're asking, Ari? for ADs, or is it for my other HODs? I asked them to work like actors, as if they were actors, meaning come to work, hold the tension between knowing and not knowing what's going to happen, right? Do all your research and then throw it out and react moment to moment to your own emotions. And the emotions of the characters. That's emotional truth is the only thing I care about, right? So break down the script that way, and don't worry about whether that's gonna be something that I wrote. That don't try to preserve that. If something's coming up in you because something happened in your own lives, use it and then show me. Most the time is gonna make it better, right?
That's awesome, because that pushes your department heads to, one, feel like they have some ownership in the filmmaking process, but also that it pushes them to be more creative. So often we get caught up in the schooling of it all and not the, what does it feel like? Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Ari. How do you separate the different roles?
Visual language.
Oh.
You leave it to my DP. No, to consistent visual language, again, there's not such a thing. I don't try to go, this is how I want this to look like Barry Lyndon. I want this to look like, this and that, a Tree of Life. No, because your DP also has to work like an actor, meaning like it has to be a real emotional reaction to the moment, whether the camera is his body, is his body feeling what the audience are gonna feel, right? Because that camera is the audience. So if my DP or the operator is feeling like, oh, this is way too much, I can't handle it, then back up. If it's like, I feel like I'm leaning in, then going forward. It's more of a somatic reaction that I'm interested in, moment by moment, influenced by the weather, by the energy on the set. And so, but if you do that, it becomes consistent in a very strange way, instead of imposing a idea from the start. Doesn't mean we don't watch references. We might start somewhere always on a day, but then they start to shift into, it's consistent because every single person on the set is reacting to something together, and then their decision is going to make it visually consistent.
So when your DP is hiring camera operators, and you and your DP, it's with that mandate?
Absolutely.
So they know. Have you ever had a camera operator that was like, oh, yeah, no, I can't even get with that?
No, because I'm lucky enough that my operators are very in their bodies. They feel, and then they all have documentary experiences as well, like really great documentary filmmakers, and they know how to feel and be in the moment, and knowing things are unpredictable and constantly trying to dance with the actors. I can't live without an operator like that.
Is that part of also why you, I'm assuming, love using natural light? Would you say that is kind of part of the...
Yeah, I mean, Hamnet is not as much natural. It
light,
looks natural, but it was very lit. But then lighting in a way that the operator can move.
Wow. Okay, adaptation always leaves something out, but I'm curious about what you chose to add to this story, particularly for Will's character. What was the intention behind bringing more Shakespeare passages into the text and showing us his writing and his life?
Yeah, there was a discussion Maggie and I had from the start, and for those of you who read the book, Shakespeare's a very small part, a lot smaller in the book, and doesn't have a lot of the play and his work in it. We knew from the start we wanted to be a two-hander, And it is going to, the moment in the end of the film when they looked at each other, when she says, look at me, and they look at each other, the whole thing is leading up to that. And don't want to get too esoteric about this, but Agnes and Will are the yin and yang energy within myself. There are always these two very polarizing energies that, you know, you can sympathize to say one is the intellect, one is the feelings, right? And one is civilization, one is nature, one is being, one is doing, one is yin and one is yang. And they love each other. They fit so beautifully. But at the same time, when something difficult happens, a deep tragedy, they also can lose the capacity of seeing the world from the other person's perspective. Like they grieve very differently. And therefore they stop seeing each other. And it actually took them coming together for the catharsis to happen. And in a way, is the two opposing forces in myself seeing each other. And so we knew we want that structure. And that's why we needed to bring Will back in. And also, knowing the audience coming to see this film, you're going to want to see the play in the end. Because in the book, the play ends after the first scene. It ends on, remember me. That's it. That's the last sentence of the book. And the written language is so much older than the cinematic language, so much more potent. So when you have black words says, remember me on a white page and then blank, what that conjure in the reader is not the same as Paul said to remember me and then cut to black. So we had to write 25 more pages of Hamlet and all that ending, just trying to potentially get some kind of bottle up the feeling of remember me blank. Yeah.
I did not read the book, but wow. I'm assuming those that read it definitely felt like you took Remember Me a little bit further.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. There are a couple. Okay, I just have to ask. I know I'm getting the sign, and I know you have someplace to go, but this is just funny. What is your favorite Pokemon?
There is a penguin one. I forgot his name, but it's a penguin. And it has a family tree turned into powerful penguins. But I like penguins. I forgot what's it called, but it's a little penguin. Do you know Pokemon?
I know Pokemon, but I don't have Pikachu, I guess. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, great. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. I wish Pokemon Asker left his name like Ari, or her name like Ari, or their name. I know you have to go, but thank you so much, Chloe.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, everyone.